Welcome to episode one of the third season of the TV show presents X-Men 92. Each week this season, we're going to be discussing and watching a couple of episodes. We'll discuss our thoughts, interesting tidbits about the production, the cast, and the long-lasting impact of the series and more. This week, we're discussing episode 1 and 2 of season 1, Night of the Sentinels, part 1 and 2. If you'd like to watch along with us, episodes of X-Men, the animated series, are available on Disney Plus. My name's Mike McDermott, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Jim Vanderhorst and Benjamin Caldwell. How you doing, guys?
Great.
What's up?
Oh,
You guys remember What's Up?
I do remember What's Up.
I do remember What's Up. Yeah, my 10-year-old nephew is having a great time with that right now.
Hell yeah.
Is What's Up
Jim,
back?
Tell him What's Up for me.
I will, and he'll be a little off-put that a strange man he doesn't know is telling me to send him a message. But,
A strange 40-year-old man.
Yeah. And then if he saw you.
Does your
Say,
10-year-old, does your nephew like the X-Men?
Hell yeah. We could talk about X-Men. We could say What's Up. Could give him his first beer. That'd be a great uncle.
I think his parents would love all of these ideas.
Shout out.
Yeah. He's just getting into the Marvel stuff now.
Oh, yeah. No, he's about that age.
Yeah, I think he wasn't into the movies for a while. I think there was a bit of a rejection in the Marvel stuff among Gen Alphas. Like if you think about like what it was for us to grow up with X-Men as kind of like this like kind of counterculture thing. It kind of had been big in the 80s. It wasn't that big so much in the 90s, and then this cartoon really is what kind of got it going.
This was what brought it back, yeah.
Whereas for my nephew's generation, they're growing up with it as like this ubiquitous, it is the mainstream culture thing. It is to us what, like Clint Eastwood being the star of every big budget movie was when we were kids. It's not an alternative culture thing at all. It is the main gestalt. So I think it's almost there's actually some quality to it. Discovery phase for younger kids, as opposed to us. So we grew up wanting to see a really good version of it. Like I was 15 when the X-Men movie came out.
Yeah.
And because I was such a big fan of this cartoon, I've been waiting for it, half my life.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like this is probably the best version of the X-Men that Fox was able to pull off.
I would say so too. Like I love this cartoon, and I didn't have much anticipation for the movie. Oddly enough, like even though I guess I just didn't feel like it was an accurate. Even at that age, I was like, this is not a good app. I was already not into the black leather. Like this is too different for me at the time.
Well, and like pre-MCU sort of amalgamation and pre-Disneyfication of everything, like the Fox guys were just doing like Fantastic Four and X-Men, right? And then Sony had Spider-Man and like Universal had Hulk, and it was just all spread out. They're all doing their own thing. Mm-hmm. So like, yeah, I agree. I wasn't into like Elektra or the like Fox X-Men movies or the Fantastic Four movies.
Elektra's is so bad it's good. But even then, it's a bit of a hard sit.
Or Daredevil, I guess. None of those ones. None of those did it for me.
There's no coherence for them. I think Kevin Feige was working as like a junior producer on most of them and saw the same thing you were talking about, the lack of cohesion, and was able to bring things together in under one house and get as much of the IP as they could get together in one place and work with that. And
the House of Mouse, it turned out.
Yeah. I do wonder how like bringing those old characters into the fold, whether it's just as like a goodbye or what, like, are they going to present them as they were at the time, or are they going to represent them in like a more accurate way? Like people are probably nostalgic for Cyclops in a leather, whatever. Maybe if you put James Marsden in an X-Men 92 suit, is that going to work?
So, Mike, I think you're talking about how many of the cast of the movie that we've been talking about, the original X-Men movie, have been announced as being part of the Avengers Doomsday cast.
That's right.
James Marsden, as you said, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Rebecca Romaine, Kelsey Grammer.
Yes.
There must be one or two others. I know Hugh Jackman.
Alan Cumming.
Alan Cumming, yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
That's fine. He was great. Nightcrawler's always a great. Yeah, it is interesting. The question is whether we're going to see new versions or these versions that we've already known. Like we saw Hugh Jackman play a Wolverine that was closer to the comics than the previous one that we had seen in Deadpool and Wolverine.
And Channing Tatum is returning as his Deadpool and Wolverine Gambit, most likely, I would think, right? So it's even it's already a mixed, and they've also introduced Kelsey Grammer as a more cartoon accurate. I'm going to call it cartoon because I really think they are playing on the like this.
I think you're right. Yeah,
I think the animated series is the MCU's ideal version of the X-Men because they even they used the theme song when they showed Kelsey Grammer's Beast and the Stinger.
Yeah, Patrick Stewart,
the Marvels.
When he played Xavier in an alternate reality, he came out with the X-Men riff playing, and he had the classic yellow chair from the cartoons. Nice. Like so much of what we think in our generation as the default of X-Men comes from this X-Men 1992 cartoon, which was also which visually was based on the Jim Lee X-Men comic that had just come out the year before. I think X-Men #1 in 91 was the biggest selling comic book of all time. Maybe upwards of 11 million copies.
Holy.
Was that where they debuted the new costumes, like the blue and yellow?
Well, it's Wolverine when they went back to that classic blue and yellow costume. Wolverine for about almost a decade had a brown and tan costume.
Yeah, I remember the brown.
A little bit more realistic, a little bit more fitting of a Wolverine. But you know how nostalgia works. Even by the early 90s, people wanted to see that original take on it. I think Jim Lee thought it would be a little bit more vibrant and superhero-y, and it was. It became the most iconic version of Wolverine instantly, even though for most of Wolverine's life up till that point, the blue and yellow coloring was kind of a joke to Wolverine fans. But then it became default and became something that eventually people clamored for and really wanted. Yeah, totally. I remember I was anticipating it. I knew of X-Men already. I had cousins who had X-Men comic books. I learned how to read by reading my cousins and brothers' comic books before I was even in kindergarten. So I think this stuff is kind of imprinted on me.
Yeah.
I was really, really young. And so I always followed it. I continued to buy the comic books when the cartoon kind of fizzled out when the cartoon was peaking around 1995, 1994, I started buying the comic books with the big Age of Apocalypse storyline, which I'll probably mention a few times. And I collected the comics from about 1995 to 2000, and again from probably 2005 to 7 or 8. And those periods were kind of all encompassing. I went from not spending anything on comic books to spending $20 a week in 2005 money on comic books, which is insane.
It's about $200 a week nowadays.
Yeah. Well, it's probably a lot more comics than what were comics back then? $2, $3.
I think in the mid 90s they were $2, and they were about $3.50 by the mid O's.
Yeah, I think they're $6 or $7 per one issue right now. I haven't bought a single issue comic book in a long time, but
I couldn't imagine that. Now that I know about the whole trade paperback, thicker comic book version, that's the only way that I'll actually buy a physical comic book, because to me the flimsies are just too flimsy.
I think growing up
has to be put into keeping them is wild to me.
Yeah, you got to put them in the Mylar bags and stuff.
Yeah.
Growing up, the only couple comic books I ever bought for myself. My parents gave me Archie comics and shit when I was little, but when I actually started buying my own, it was only a couple. I bought the holographic cover Venom story from Spider-Man. When I was about 7 or 8, and I bought I think it was a limited series of 2 or 3 comics about Wolverine when he wasn't with the X-Men and he was just wearing a brown jacket and out in Canada.
Cool.
Yeah. And that was all I ever read in comics, but otherwise this series to me was the X-Men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, same for me. I read comics a little bit now, but this and Batman the Animated Series and Spider-Man the Animated Series were obviously all kind of on at the same time, and just obviously it played a really big part. We're seeing a lot of nostalgia for this era of cartoon, I guess, or of these
Definitely.
characters. Like, it's just really interesting the way that like I find like this is going to be sort of very influential in the MCU going forward, which is obviously a big cultural thing these days. And
Yeah, like the X-Men is going to be the next major phase of the films. Jake Schreier, who did Thunderbolts, which is the best MCU movie I think since Endgame, is doing the X-Men film. And there's a bunch of young people being cast for the movie, but there's also like the potential that some of the older characters could return. Nobody really knows what's going to happen at the end of the next two Avengers movies because they could really clean up the MCU by combining all of this multiverse into one universe, which both Marvel and DC have famously done in their canons to try and simplify their comic books. Like, why not just do it in the films as well? That seems to be where we're headed, and I think that X-Men is going to be like the flagship title that we get immediately after that decision is made.
feels
Uh,
feel, feels like the biggest new thing they can do. Like the X-Men will be pretty fresh as a concept.
Yeah.
yeah, I
Well,
think
and
people
they've
really want it
tried.
again. It is the one thing
Yes,
about Marvel
people have
that
been
is
waiting
on the
for a
under.
good X-Men. I really agree, and I think they've tried the side projects like the Eternals and stuff, and there just wasn't as much of a fan base for that, right? And like you could get the best director and a great cast, and people will still be like, meh. But you go to this nostalgia, right? And people love nostalgia.
Yeah, like people say there
Yeah.
was too many characters in Eternals, even though there's only really like 10, 11 characters in the whole film.
Mm.
Uh, but that wouldn't have been a critique if it was X-Men. It would have been, oh, how wonderful was it that they managed to fit all 11 of these X-Men into this narrative so well? Because
Totally.
Eternals wasn't bad. It like wasn't nearly as bad as Thor 4 or
No,
Catman 3 or Secret Invasion. Like
no, it's
the
honestly
real ones.
one of my favorite late MCU movies I've seen. Like I think like its take on Celestials and the powers and everything they showed was really fresh and grounded and nice, I thought.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
lack of follow up is my biggest problem with that. We haven't seen much other than some little bits in the terrible Captain America 4.
Mm,
Captain
yes.
America 4, not my Captain America.
Give me back my Captain America. Oh,
Yeah. So what Jim, you said you kind of knew a little bit about the origins of how this show got off the ground. Do you want to fill us in a little bit on that?
yeah. So in 1989, a children's animation producer named Margaret Lesh used the final episode of her RoboCop series to actually make a backdoor pilot for the X-Men. Back in the day, 13 episodes was pretty standard for a licensed TV show because you had no idea how much it was going to, how much of a success it was going to be in its first season. And a licensed show has extra expenses on top of the normal production of a television show because you have to pay the creators and the production company that owns the original film for whatever you're licensing. And the RoboCop show was clearly failing before it was ever getting to the last episode. So she knew that in her heart that X-Men was going to be a successful cartoon if they could adapt it because it was the biggest selling comic books of the 80s and was still continuing to grow. But executives thought it was too much too soon, right? To them, it was as confusing as the Eternals was to the modern world because they just didn't know it. Uh, but she took all of this money and made a Pride of the X-Men pilot, and they aired that on TV instead of the final episode of RoboCop as this like rogue element.
That's
It's
crazy.
it's nuts that this happened, right?
I've
And
never heard that before. That's amazing.
yeah, and it didn't get picked up. However, a year later, she gets made head of the Fox Children's Network, and they have coming in Batman. And Batman ultimately winds up debuting like 2 months, a little under 2 months before X-Men. So Margaret Loesch knows that uh, the Fox company is already on board with making a superhero thing happen. So boom, they roll with it. They start to develop the X-Men cartoon for the fall of 1992. There's some problems along the way. There's some issues with the animation. They wind up originally airing the episodes kind of with a bunch of animation errors. The episodes that we watched, like that you can find on Disney Plus or by pirating, are not those versions. There's a lot of problems with those first airings.
Hmm.
It was a pretty interesting tape trading market for those because originally they were quite a disaster. But
Are we
we all
talking like
watched them. I
color
remember watching
issues?
those
Like
when they
what was
came
the
out.
issue with them?
I think there was the wrong character sometimes,
Oh wow.
wrong color issues a lot. Just stuff being a little out of sequence or just not done right. It was a mess.
Hmm.
But the show was a huge hit. So they managed to pump out a full season of 13 episodes, and then they ordered another 65 episodes after that. And the show was even so successful that a final season of 10 episodes was ordered for the tail end of that. So they wound up having 76 episodes instead of the original planned 65.
Hmm.
I think there really is an overall plan from the beginning of where they're going to go. Like there's all these seeds sowed in season 1 that pay off in season 4. And then season
Well,
5 kind of just happens.
They open with a 2-part episode. It's like they're planning this thing out from day one. And I imagine staying true to this comic run, right? Like
Right.
Yeah.
It seems like they were really one of the first things to like specifically start like adapting comic storylines. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen that in a cartoon before.
yeah, like before this, like there was like the Spider-Man TV show from the 60s and like the Hulk, and they were kind of silly, and they didn't follow any real continuity. It was just you'd show up and you'd watch an episode, and if you missed it, it didn't matter.
Yeah,
Right.
this definitely raised the bar, and it was pulling all these narrative threads that were popular in the Jim Lee comic books from 1990 and 1991. Do you guys remember the X-Men video arcade game that came out in like 1991 or 2?
Hell yes. I was
Oh,
going to
God,
mention
yes.
that too.
Yes.
I think that's where I knew the old Wolverine costume from.
Yeah,
I
and
think they
that
used
was
the old
based on
costumes.
that was based on Pride of the X-Men. It was like a thing that Margaret
okay.
Lesh got developed to kind of cash in the popularity of that before she became head of the Kids Network.
Because
And that product continued without her. Yep.
the lineup was different back then, right? It was like Wolverine,
Dazzler, British Psylocke.
wasn't Archangel part of that team?
I
The
think
Iceman, maybe.
Iceman for sure.
Yeah,
Colossus, I think.
Yeah. Cyclops looking way different. Yeah, because the X-Men team was shifting a lot, but when they relaunched the comic book and launched a second book, that Jim Lee book, they split the X-Men into 2 teams, and they've really figured out very quickly who is the most popular teams from those books, who are the most popular characters from those books, and they picked the most likely characters for audiences to connect with for the show, and that became, I think, the most iconic lineup. Like, there's been this yearning for years for there to be a good Gambit, because Gambit was kind of the only character from that original lineup of mutants in these first 2 episodes that we're about to talk about that never really got a faithful adaptation. Like, he shows up in X-Men Origins Wolverine, but it's like it's a joke. That whole movie is ridiculous.
Yeah.
That's really where the X-Men series goes way off the deep end. I guess X-Men 3 was pretty bad, but Wolverine Origins was just a fucking disaster.
Childhood memory just unlocked. I actually did have a little Gambit comic book thing that I bought. It was like a 2 or 3 pack, like a package that we got at like the dollar store. So yes, I also read the Gambit series.
Sick, yeah. Gambit was awesome. He was like a really edgy guy. He done some real bad things, some big crimes against his other people. He's a really great character, and I'm glad that we're kind of about to live through this. I mean, we're in the middle of this Gambit renaissance.
The Gambit songs.
I think we're about to laisser le bon temps brûler.
Yes. I was just about to say the same thing.
Mon ami.
Mon ami.
Mon cher.
Mon cher. He says mon cher so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love how he's so horny for Rogue, and he can't touch her.
Yeah, it's a real great metaphor.
It's like if fucking what's his name? Pepe Le Pew had to like touch a cat, and then like he goes to touch the cat and he gets like shocked, something like that.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right.
I think he's a little less rapey than Pepe Le Pew, though.
I mean
marginally,
only because
maybe.
he like would die if he did.
Yeah,
he really does come across as kind of a shithead. character. He actually was the most recently debuted character. He had just shown up in like 1990 or so. Jubilee had actually showed up a couple years earlier in 1988.
See, I thought Jubilee was just made up for the TV show because I thought Kitty Pryde was the original Jubilee.
She's definitely fulfilling more of a Kitty Pryde role, like the Kitty Pryde in the cartoon pilot part of the X-Men. Her role is definitely filled by Jubilee, and I think they did that to appeal to more of a multicultural audience. We probably didn't think of it as very much of a big deal, but Jubilee was an Asian female character.
So they called her Jubilation Lee because of woke.
I did not know as a kid that Jubilee was Asian. I don't think. It's
Well, she was played by Allison Court, right? Who was not Asian.
Certainly, yeah.
Well, and if you pay attention in the first episode, they show a screenshot.
Chinese,
right? She's like Chinese American Jubilation Lee. Yeah.
Oh yeah, they do say it. Okay, so yeah, it's important. And like, if you're a Chinese kid watching in 1992, I bet that was awesome.
I bet you it felt as awesome as Wolverine being a Canadian to us Canadian kids.
Totally. I fucking identified the hell out of Wolverine. I wanted to connect with that always. Which is probably not that great.
I think that's why I grew up to be an alcoholic, honestly.
Yeah, it's the only reason, buddy.
That's why I'm always calling everybody Bub.
There was a moment where they call Morph them. But I think they were referring to Morph and Beast, but it sounded like they were calling Morph them. Which I thought for a second was like, oh, that's really crazy for.
Don't worry about they, them. Around here, we introduce ourselves with pronouns.
Eric Lewald. Eric and Julia Lewald.
Okay.
They were a couple that had a big impact on our childhoods, I guess. They ran the show. The whole big epic storyline. Like the big time travel epic storyline actually isn't from the comic books. They came up with it based on their ideas. There's a couple ideas along the way that actually inspired big things in the comics that came from them. So like they're pretty awesome. Shout out to Julia and Eric Lewald. We wish that the Wikipedia gave you more representation for all your dope work over the years.
Also interesting, like watching it this time around, I noticed a lot more Canadian accents in the character voices, and I did see on the IMDb page that it was filmed, quote unquote, in Toronto, Ontario.
You notice when main characters are pulling double duty and like trying to squeeze in another voice to do like trucker from bar or something, and it's just like the Wolverine guy, but he's doing a Jack Nicholson impression instead. Yeah, or like So
yeah, George Booza did a lot of that stuff. The guy who plays Beast is like all over Canadian films doing little bits.
I bet you he was on The Littlest Hobo at least once.
100%.
Absolutely.
Littlest Hobo, yeah.
Yep.
He was on the Red Green Show.
I bet.
Oh my gosh. The theme song is another thing I want before we get into the episode. Like, it's just one of the greatest theme songs of all time, and they made the perfect. Only right choice to use it again when they rebooted it for not reboot, but like continued with X-Men 97, and mostly a really faithful cover of the song. It's kind of a interesting fact, I guess. Like there's another famous children's show theme song written and performed by the same artist. You guys have any idea which one that might be?
I mean, I know that the guy who wrote the song was Haim Saban, who also was like the guy who did the Power Rangers theme song.
It's exactly it. If you listen to the instrumentation and I'm like it's you can tell that it's like played by the same house band or whatever. Like it sounds like it's the same thing. Like even the background music in the show, you can tell.
He actually was able to get Power Ranger Halen the guitar parts.
Be amazing.
Old family friend.
That was only like a year later, right? Power Rangers. That was a big period for big IPs kind of coming along that really stayed and were successful. Maybe ones that were a little bit more refined, a little bit more calculated than the 80s original, just like, let's just copy He-Man. Let's just copy GoBots. And that's how they got Transformers.
Mm-hmm.
Suck it, GoBots.
Yeah, you were first and you still lost.
Yeah.
Kind of like the original Ghostbusters. You guys remember that weird TV show?
Oh, yeah.
I do, yeah.
I haven't actually seen the original TV show. I've seen the cartoon version of it.
The cartoon and a live
That's what I
action
was
one.
thinking of.
Yeah. Have you ever seen the live action version
No,
from
no,
the
no.
70s?
I've never
No.
seen
Because that's the actual OG thing.
That's right.
We just saw the Filmation cartoon that they produced to compete with Extreme Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And I think maybe I feel like they were just trying to trick people. And I think that they tricked YTV for several years into airing that show instead of the good Ghostbusters. Because that's
either that or it was
I
like
could think
a
of.
third of the price or something. But
It's like, oh, this Ghostbusters is cheaper. It's probably the same thing. Boop, boop.
I think it was, one was the real Ghostbusters and one was the original Ghostbusters, if I remember correctly.
I think something like that, yeah.
That's crazy that you can get around that just by calling your show The Real. Like, imagine if that still happened these days. Like
the Ghostbusters that won't make you sick and kill you.
Yeah, like what if we called ourselves The Real X-Men?
Or The Real Lonely Island.
The original X-Men.
Yeah.
The real
X-Men.
original X-Men.
Just the original men.
Mm.
The episode aired October 31st, 1992. Most notable for being the day in history when Pope John Paul II officially apologized to Galileo Galilei only 350 years after he died.
Too little, too late. You ask me.
5 out of 4.
I mean, I say better late than never. I think Galileo's family was very happy to get that.
Fun fact, that's why Sinead O'Connor ripped up his picture on SNL.
Is that actually true?
No.
Okay.
No.
She's just very passionate about Galileo.
That's what the song "Nothing Compares to You" was written by. It was written by Prince, but it was written for Galileo, and that's why she sang it.
That was October 3rd, 1992. So maybe he apologized to Galileo as a way of making it up to her.
Maybe.
Because that's how the church works. Like, they just apologize now for their role in the indigenous what are those horrible schools, like the
residential schools?
The residential schools where like thousands and thousands of Native children were subjected to horrible treatment, and many died. And I feel like we're about 350 years away from the church apologizing for their part in the Israel-Palestine genocide event that's happening right now. It's about a reasonable timeline.
And what a time for the X-Men to come back into fashion.
Right. We need the X-Men now more than ever.
The way that the politicians are all against them and stuff, like it's very much like a show about rebellion, right?
Yeah, and if you think about it, the X-Men were if you think about it, the Avengers era were very much a product of the Obama era, which is when a whole ton of people just all together, the collective conscious, really wanted to believe that this was going to be the time that the mainstream government process was going to get it together, which I think is some of the enthusiasm now. And we're in a very different place now, 17 years later, as a continent. And I think that people are wanting to be more representing of like diversity and fighting against it and being counterculture. And I think X-Men just represents what people, what the people that aren't in power right now are feeling.
Yeah.
And taps into more. The number one song both weekends that Night of the Sentinels debuted, both October 31st and November 7th, 1992, was End of the Road by Boyz II Men. It was also the end of the road for Boyz II Men's over 11-week run on the charts. It would be beat out by How Do You Talk to an Angel the next week by The Heights. I've never even heard of this song. I don't know. But Boyz II Men's End of the Road, a classic tune. It was dominating all through August, September, and October. So no matter where you were when you watched the first X-Men show, you probably heard End of the Road by Boyz II Men.
In the car.
Yeah.
On the way to soccer or something.
Yeah. The number one movie the weekend that the first episode dropped was Under Siege in its fourth week, on its way to an $85 million haul, which is a big deal for a shitty movie in 1992.
Fourth week? It was the number one on its fourth week? Holy shit.
The legs on this thing.
Absolutely.
Kind of ironic that he can't use his legs anymore, given the legs in that film.
And like the
Okay.
other movies that were in theaters at the time that were A River Runs Through It, Candyman, Last of the Mohicans, The Mighty
Wow.
Ducks, Dr. Giggles. All of these movies are much more beloved and
Return.
well known.
Yeah.
Sneakers with Robert Redford. Ooh,
Wow.
Reservoir Dogs was
Ooh,
in
Navy
limited
SEALs.
release in indie films
Nice.
theaters.
Yeah, that would have been 92. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great film, Reservoir Dogs. It's too
Hell yeah.
bad that he never really lived up to it with any further films. I couldn't even keep
And
a straight face for that one.
R.I.P. Michael Madsen.
Yeah, R.I.P. Yeah, great guy, great actor. Passed away last week when we're recording this. The following weekend, Passenger 57 finally knocked it off the number one. Wesley Snipes' big
Yeah.
blockbuster hit proved that a dark-skinned black man could draw and make money too, not just light-skinned black men. Up to Wesley Snipes, there was a lot of colorism and who could get funded for things, Like Denzel was appreciated and accepted in a different way than Wesley was. I remember the Blade didn't even open in our hometown, Ben.
Oh, really? Yeah,
I do
Blade,
not
another
remember that.
That was when I
influential.
started to believe that racism was still a thing.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, we don't get Blade? We get like shitty Denzel Washington movies, but we don't get Blade, which is the number one movie right now.
I do remember Titanic running for like about 7 straight months in
I
that
think that
theater.
just happened everywhere.
Yeah. That was a phenomenon.
Yeah, it was really unfortunate. I've seen it once in theater, and I never felt any desire to go back.
Yeah, you've seen it.
I don't know that
Yeah.
I've ever seen the entire Titanic.
Do you want us to go over it with you really quick
The
before we
best
get into
part
the
is when
episode?
the Predators.
Yeah, if we could just take a break and watch it right now, that would be.
All
I'd
right.
like that.
3 hours and 56 minutes, I think, something like that.
I remember my dad loved that movie for some reason. I don't know why. And he had the VHS. It was the first time I'd ever seen the VHS that was on multiple tapes to
Yeah.
watch the whole movie, because DVD was not quite yet a thing when it came out for home video. And I thought it was really boring anytime he tried to make us watch it, and I refused.
Like,
Well,
why don't I
maybe your
come in
dad
on
was
tape
trying to
part
tell
2?
you something.
Yeah, I'll come in and tape part 2. That boat must be sinking by then.
You'd
Yeah,
think.
that's when the Predators show up. Like the scale really heightens when there's aliens taking people.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a spoiler. I don't appreciate that.
It's a spoiler for a 38-year-old movie.
Yeah, man.
Fair enough.
Speaking of spoilers,
Let's
that is
spoil the
Sentinels
shit out of
Part
this. We're not going to line by line talk about everything that happened. So we're kind of just going to do an open floor kind of thing. So what did we think?
It's funny because like you watch it as a kid and then you watch it as a critical adult, and it's two different things. And I know as a kid, I was like, fuck, this show is so goddamn cool.
Mhm.
Those like 3D characters that rotate around and all that cool stuff. Like the technological marvels of the CG animation from about 1989 to, 1990. Like that kind of like little range that like, I guess to this point. So it was starting to get like almost like as good as like a PlayStation 1 video game quality.
Yeah.
Right. But like at the time, it looked crazy. It looked so cool.
Yeah.
Right.
The X-Men show was thankfully kind of like spared from. I don't know if you remember in the Spider-Man show that was on at the same time. They would do these 3D cityscapes.
2 years later, I think
They did like 3D cities in the background, and whenever he was web swinging, and it didn't look good at all. Really,
Didn't mesh. Yeah.
No. So this show is spared from that. It's just regular classic 2D animation, a little rough at times. Definitely showing its age, especially when you've seen a version of this show through the lens of modern animation with X-Men.
Yeah, like X-Men 97 was like high budget, top notch quality version of this show. It definitely pales in comparison to that. But I think if you were to compare it to any other show from 1992, like even Batman the Animated Series, like has some pretty rough episodes.
Oh God, yeah.
First run of 60, aside from like the 5 or so that were done by the studio that made Akira.
Batman, the animated series, was on a different level. That was like a period piece, and it was like really well shot. Like it was lit really well. Like
it had
that
more
was
style.
a really
It
interesting
had way more
show.
style. I'll give it that.
I'd have to say
This one though was great. Like it was for the time. This is almost like the last show that was like not in the anime style. Like it was like edging towards it, but it didn't get into that anime style that you see in like every cartoon since then. Because at this time it was like the only anime show we really knew, at least on the mainstream, would have been like Sailor Moon was on TV.
Right.
And some like super nerds were into like Macross and like
But that was all from the early 80s.
Labor and stuff,
Robotech
right?
aired in like 82, 83. We really didn't have that same amount of like the early 80s kids had a lot more anime than we did. We did have grow up with it being kind of like the thing that was in Blockbuster in the 18 plus section.
Yeah, like Ghost in the Shell.
It was a mysterious
so cool.
thing that was hard to reach. It was another thing that's a very big difference between the millennial generation's approach to this stuff and the Gen X approach to it versus like the Gen Z, Gen Alpha way that they think about all of this culture.
They drop us into the show with our point of view character is Jubilee, which I guess this is kind of her first, as you said before, she's kind of a new character, and she's kind of replacing, I think you said the original producer was thinking Kitty Pryde would be like the point of view character.
Well, in Pride of the X-Men, she is the main POV character that is just being introduced
Kitty Pryde
to the character.
X-Men.
Yeah. So Jubilee is being introduced to the X-Men in a way that kind of does mirror her first appearance in 1989. She does run into a bunch of the X-Men women in a mall, but this is back in a time when the X-Men were living in Australia and using teleportation portals to get around. So she kind of like sneaks into their base and eventually meets Wolverine and becomes his friend and becomes friends with everybody that way. Her like drop you in and suddenly you're in an adventure origin is also based more on Kitty Pryde's origin. Like the Sentinels weren't part of it. The Sentinels are replacing this squad of bounty hunters because it was the late 80s and everybody had to have guns all the time.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then they really like changed the formula for the live action movies. Like Rogue is in that role there, which is like another reon I wasn't super thrilled with those movies, I guess, because
I was never a big fan of Rogue being
so different from Rogue that I know from the show. I mean, still not a great Storm though, but no,
especially not in that first X-Men movie. I think she did her best work in that second one.
But like Rogue is one of my favorite characters in this show. She's, I've always loved.
Yeah, this take on Rogue is awesome. This is the iconic one that I like. That I really.
They have to do this when they do the new X-Men movies. Like they have to prioritize this character as like a big part of it, I think, because her and Storm could be like really huge characters.
Totally. You can change a lot about Rogue. You can even change her race, but she's got to be a Southern belle wearing that green and yellow costume and a flight jacket.
Yeah,
that is
the
iconic.
White streak in the hair.
Yes,
and they really, you can tell this is a show set in the 90s because like so much of it takes place at the shopping mall and like everyone is just there by coincidence, like just because that's where everyone is.
Yeah. I always have this saying that like the early part of the next decade is actually the most extreme part of the previous decade. That's like the early 90s is the most extreme part of the 80s, and it really shines in this episode, especially that we are in like the apex of the 80s, the part of the 80s that is still going strong in culture. We're living in this pocket.
Yeah.
And right away her parents fucking sell her out.
Foster dad, right?
Yeah. Totally, yeah. Like we don't ever get to see who her parents are in this show, unfortunately. We do get to see her foster parents who sell her out and I think never show up again. In the comic books, her parents were like actually secretly involved with crime and they were whacked as part of like a crime thing. And so she was a street urchin orphan living for many years, using her like light powers to do little light tricks to get by, as a street performer. But
sometimes you got to do tricks to get by.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Illusions, Michael.
I didn't know how to end it, and you did. Thank you.
Yeah.
Illusions.
Her powers are so kind of like undefined. They sort of like general firework energy blasts, which
I don't think she even knows how to make them.
Sometimes it hurts people.
Right. Sometimes it's just a tickle. Sometimes it destroys. Yeah. It's a little nebulous, I guess. But
it's become powerful.
She's learning how to use it, I guess.
Yeah. but like they're just as likely to strip Jubilee of her powers and do something else with her. Like for fucking years in the comic books, apparently she was a vampire.
I was going to
For like
say, yeah,
a
that
decade.
is true. I think, I mean, yeah, I think everyone's been a vampire. Like Miles Morales is a vampire right now, apparently.
Oh,
Hmm.
why?
I don't know.
Poor guy.
They've ruined that character quickly already, I think.
He's so new and fresh. He's like less
I
than
know.
2 decades old.
I know.
That's the pitcher for the Mets. Is that right? No, I'm just kidding.
But maybe.
Maybe.
And they also show like there's a shot of like Sabretooth that really kind of kicks off the whole show where he like throws a car literally like 300 feet. Like it's like into this, like way
A very
stronger than
dynamic
Sabretooth
image,
has
yeah.
ever been shown to be or will ever be shown to be again, I think.
I think Sabretooth's on par with the strength of Wolverine and Spider-Man, though.
Sure.
Yeah, he's supposed to be a big deal. I don't know. I don't think we see him throw anything that far again, but I don't think it's like unreasonably more than his powers are.
He actually just set that up. That was like a foam car that he just like put there. Like, look how tough I am.
I'm going to be on the news. Get me my
The race
phone
just
car.
put it there. Yeah, it's their version of putting a stack of bricks by a bunch of anarchists is to put a foam car.
Yeah, he's a crisis actor. He's just trying to get everyone outraged about mutants. Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Follow
there's
the
this part where
breadcrumbs, people.
Jubilee is sneaking out of the house, and she walks right by a Sentinel, and it kind of pans up, and like his whole body is visible above this tree that's maybe like 50
they're so ridiculously huge.
The Sentinels, man.
Like,
what the fuck?
It's not
Like,
that well directed. It's kind of
honestly,
insane. She would.
I didn't even question it as a kid, but yeah, the scale and the like amount of damage that they do to like your local neighborhood and mall to track down a fucking mutant that hasn't done anything. She hasn't done anything. She's just a mutant. And they're like, okay, let's basically tear up like a few blocks and smash through not one, but two of those like 80-foot tall plate glass windows on either side of the mall. Like, fuck you guys. Like, that's millions of dollars. Probably, yeah. People are at least injured, if not killed, by these things. And the people are just supposed to go along with that? I don't think so.
Yeah, the Sentinels are causing so much more damage than Jubilee ever does.
Yeah. No, they literally just pluck her off this list that her dad put her on, her foster dad. And they show her at her house, and it's really funny. He like grabs her bed and like goes like inanimate object, and he just drops it, and he's just like, "This is not my mutant." And it seems very, they're not bright machines. Like they're shown as like being very
they're
dumb.
AIs in 1992. Give them a break. Look at how dumb AI is now in 2025.
Yeah, they really did.
Imagine if they had Grok in them.
Oh wow!
Little Mecha Hitlers running around. I guess they are.
Yeah, they'd be.
That is what they have in them. Oh my god! Be like, let that sink in.
Yeah,
I did think like the animation, like I don't know, the direction wasn't great, but I did think they handled like the movement of the Sentinels pretty well in this first episode.
They're intimidating. It was
the
sense of scale was really well done. I thought.
Yeah, like they're scary.
Yeah, they're big and ridiculous.
I'm looking.
That purple and that green from like that year, that's such a like iconic of that period.
Oh god,
like that deep purple and like the sort of forest green that you see a lot.
Yeah, it was like
and the yellow, I guess. Era. Like the bright yellow is the same color as April O'Neil's jacket in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
it's very eye catching.
The whole fight that they do in the mall is pretty like better than I remembered it being, I guess, or better than I expected it to be based on
a lot goes on there.
Yeah,
I love that they're dressed in like street clothing and looking very normal. They're not dressed in their costumes in their first appearance. This era of cartoons, people just like were dressed in the outfit of the toy
I was gonna say like it wouldn't have been unheard of for her to be like walking around the mall dressed as her full storm suit going shopping or something in a like different cartoon
or something.
Yeah,
totally.
I think too, like later on they often are wearing their costume under like a trench coat and stuff.
Yeah, although I will say Storm's like suit up moment does not make a lick of sense, that her powers somehow electricity like makes her suit appear on her body. Like I didn't understand that.
That is a good point. I have no counter. That is silly, and they left it. But it's kind of a cool moment anyway.
Maybe it's made out of really fine clouds.
Does work.
And held together by like static electricity.
Yeah.
It is white.
I don't remember if
Maybe
Rogue
her
changes.
costume is made of ice.
Or maybe she just evaporated, like she just destroyed her previous clothing, and she was wearing
that white bodysuit.
She's wearing the electricity-proof clothes underneath.
If she was wearing the later black costume, I could buy that. But that big white costume is
that black suit. Yeah, and then Gambit's there. I wonder if Gambit was there with them or just on his own shopping for cards at the deck of card stores.
He was at the butt plug store.
Yeah. He's just looking at cards like, oh, yeah, these ones look good. I'll get these cards. And yeah, there's a few cool moments. He just
walks in like it's a pack of smokes. He's like the usual mon ami. And the guy's like, yeah. And he gives him like a carton of cards.
I think he taught me why solitaire is called solitaire because he makes a joke about, what kind of card game does it. He says he likes to play solitaire. Like, I can't remember what it was. He said something about playing by himself.
It's like a jacking off joke, maybe.
I guess, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, it made me realize that solitaire is called solitaire because you play it by yourself, I think.
Yeah. Solitaire.
So they save Jubilee, and they have the fight spills outside. Cyclops takes one of their head off with one of his optic blasts, which is pretty sweet. I don't think his optic blast has ever showed to be that strong again. I think he struggles to do that. Maybe he just perfectly aimed that shot, though. I don't know. But they do take her back to her base where she gets to meet the rest of the team.
Oh, also
she
in
kind
that
of like
part,
spies. She wakes up and spies on them all and like sees what they're doing in their home life. My favorite scene here is when she discovers Morph can like change into all these different powers, and she's shifting back and they're shifting back and forth between all of the characters on TV. I thought that was a really cool moment, and instantly Morph was my favorite character.
Yeah, and they show
Beast. That worked out really well.
Beast using like a thesaurus for every line of dialogue that he has. He's just beasting all over the place with everything he says.
Going beast mode, if you will.
Yeah.
And we're back.
We're on episode 2 now of Night of the Sentinels Part 2. We get another little recap.
Episode 2 of Part 2. Oh, yeah.
And the X-Men are about to launch their first mission that we can see anyway. Is it their first mission? Like X-Men?
Oh, no, the X-Men have been around for years in this continuity. But
they made them
not since the 60s, but I gather that they've been around for like 10 years or so. There's an episode way at the end where Xavier kind of remembers the history of it. And it looks like Cyclops' age is about 10 years in that time.
I only ask because Professor X makes a comment about how he always knew his X-Men would be discovered. So I think this is their first public mission where people have seen them.
I think this is them getting outed, yes.
Yeah.
And I don't think that they knew about Sentinels up to this point. Like Sentinels originally from the comics showed up in like 1965, pretty early into the run of the original team, which the original team of the comics, for those who might be not aware, is Cyclops, Jean Grey, Iceman, Beast, and the Angel, as well as actually Morph, who showed up really early in the run and only lasted a few issues. But he was actually like a canon character from the original X-Men team, not a character that they invented for the cartoon, although this interpretation of him is completely new.
Killing a canon character in episode 1 is pretty intense.
Yeah, well, it's like not a very well-known character, and they definitely, like I said, they made him his own. Like Morph in the cartoon is the character in the same way that like Clayface from the Batman cartoon, like that depiction of Clayface, it became how Clayface is known and depicted. Before he would just like just change his face, he wouldn't change his whole body and morph around as much like that, or like I think of Morph more like I think of Harley Quinn, like a character that was completely invented for that. But like Morph was based on this other character, the Changeling from the original X-Men line. And then I guess we haven't really gone through the whole team, right? But it's Wolverine, Cyclops, Jean Grey, Beast, Gambit, Rogue, Morph,
and Storm.
Now Jubilee.
Storm. Yeah. And Professor Xavier, I guess he gets his own name, Chiron, in the intro bit.
But through the course of the show, they don't really add, like, there's no consistent new characters. Like, there's guest stars, but
like the comic books are constantly adding in new characters. Like once or twice a year, some new characters will be introduced and join the team, or they'll Now they're at this point now where there's like 7 or 8 X-Men teams.
Well, there's
So
that little section where they get into Wolverine's past and they show us like the X Factor team. And then there's also a little
yeah,
run where he's like in love with that sewer lady, and they have all those sewer X-Men or sewer mutants, not X-Men, but
I
yeah,
actually come to think of it, I think
not
Nightcrawler
quite, but yeah.
is the closest they come to adding like a permanent cast member.
I mean, yeah, he joins the X-Men in X-Men 97 finally, but
Oh, really? He's not in it. He's not in this version that much.
no, like 3 or 4 episodes.
Oh, really? That's a shame.
Yeah.
he's just playing a cameo of himself.
Yeah, in X-Men 97, the team changes its makeup more than it ever did in the whole.
Yeah, it's like
5
almost
seasons.
episode to episode is like a different lineup ever. Yeah. Okay.
There's lots of cameos though, like lots of cameo characters, and also one thing the producers did because Marvel wouldn't. Marvel wanted like licensing money for every character that showed up and had lines and everything. So there's lots of times that there's just a character shown like on a TV screen or in a brief glimpse in like cataclysmic moments when they'll go around the globe and they'll show stuff happening. And you'll see some characters like we saw Spider-Man's hand in an early Crisis. We see Deadpool, his first appearance sometime in the second season, I think.
No
as
way.
Just like as just a nameless character because they gave detailed visual descriptions to the animators without saying who the characters are in the scripts. And that's how they were able to sneak in all of these really cool cameos all over the place. So like Sabretooth even was done that way. So maybe the difference in Sabretooth's first depiction in that first episode and how is because in the first episode they might have written the first 2 episodes without thinking about what they were going to do much later. Like all the seed building for later stuff starts to happen in later episodes. These 2 episodes are really concerned with just helping you understand this whole world, which is a pretty big deal.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff to get across, right? We have to understand that we're living in this mutant world where some people just have powers because of a genetic reason and they're hated and feared and they're just starting to become well known in the global consciousness after being kind of like a hidden thing for hundreds of years.
They infiltrate the place. They're blasting it up. They're fighting Sentinels and guards and everything.
The Mutant Control Agency.
The Mutant Control Agency.
Wolverine can smell them.
Yeah, he can smell gunpowder. He at one point can smell infrared light apparently, which I thought was fucking bullshit when he said that.
Sounds like you're not a Canadian then, Bob.
Yeah,
we can all smell infrared light, eh?
Are you Wolverine or Don Cherry?
Same guy, Bob.
Let's go. Yeah, so
Beast hacks the computer systems to delete mutant records and destroys physical files. I don't really remember that part of it, but it certainly sucks when they capture Beast later.
Yeah, so
one of my least favorite things about season 1 is that Beast is kind of like, spoiler, going to be held captive for most of the season, and it's kind of like the show feels like it's missing something, and he really it feels great when he's part of the team later on. I really love having Beast be part of the X-Men. He's an iconic member of the team. It's a big crazy risk to be like, yeah, this guy's on the show. He's going to be in prison the first season.
Yeah, no, that is actually pretty wild that he's just sort of like segregated from the rest of the team right off the bat. I mean, they made a lot of big choices in this here, like as part of the escape from their mission here. So Beast gets captured. Morph is presumed dead. His life signs disappear when Jean is tracking them on Cerebro back at the base.
Right.
And Wolverine's really fucking mad about that. They make
Wolverine
it really
you don't leave him behind, Bob.
He walks up and gives Cyclops a huge punch in the chest, which is like, do you remember like a clip show version of like, I remember somewhere in the 2000s there was like previously on X-Men, I think it was called, and it was just a bunch of out of context clips from this show. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Like an internet thing or a
I think it was like a
television
Vine thing, and
And it like
Wolverine
there,
just kept
well,
punching
it's just
Cyclops over and
yeah,
over.
he just it's like he walks up, punches Cyclops in the gut. It's like it's all these weird moments that like out of context are really funny, and that's
kind
one
of
of them.
kind of a toxic example being set.
Oh
For
god, yeah.
young kids.
He cuts the top of his car off, which is kind of funny. But they make this weird choice where like
I made him a
The convertible, yeah.
they show them come back from the mission and then they like flash back to the mission ending. Like, did you find that kind of a weird
Yeah,
story
the
structure?
structure is really strange.
Why
But
not?
it kind of,
Why?
even though it was weird, it really made it stick with me and feel like I felt the hurt and pain of it in a way that I might not have if it wasn't structured so weird. But it is strange how like they come back and we hear that Beast and Morph like are captured, maybe dead, before we actually see the battle that they get captured in, and you just kind of assume, okay, I'm not going to see this battle, and then you get to see it, and you're like, oh, cool, that's great. That's a fucking weird story choice, but
Yeah,
that's
like
great.
to like immediately flash back to the thing you just skipped. Like, yeah, it's kind of interesting. I guess they're sort of maybe trying to show it from Wolverine's point of view. Just maybe to like maybe show you a version that might not be reliable. Maybe I don't know. Hard to say.
And maybe like backtracking for people that missed the last episode a little bit.
Could be.
Just
Yeah.
before PVR, before DVDs.
No, it's in the same episode. It's all within a couple.
It's all
minutes.
yeah. It's literally like they get back from the mission. Wolverine's mad, storms out,
Like,
drives
I think
away,
there's a commercial break, and then they
and
go
then
back and,
and then he
So
then
this
he
is like
thinks
their
about
True
what just
Detective
happened.
season 1.
I think it's worth noting that we also do meet a couple really important characters when Jubilee is being held captive. We meet Gyrick, who is the terrible government agent, redhead piece of shit that's always causing problems for mutants because he's just a racist bastard all the time. Like not really a big part of the movies at all because he just gets killed off way too fast. But
He's in the movies.
we only ever get to see the version of Gyrick that is being possessed and played by Mystique.
Oh,
To get close to Senator Kelly to kidnap
okay.
him. And that's all we ever get of Gyrick, and then he's dead, and they never bother bringing him back. Or like Boulevard Trask, he's the inventor of the Sentinels, big character in the comic books. Boulevard Trask, they have bent space and time to represent in films in various ways.
I was gonna say he's in Days of Future Past by Peter Dinklage, but he's also doesn't he also show up in a different one?
In 1974, in Days of Future Past, he is played by white man Peter Dinklage, and in 2006 in X-Men 3, he is played by Bill Duke, who is like over twice Peter Dinklage's size and black.
That's a different Bolivar Trask. That's a very common name.
Yeah, there's just Bolivar Trasks all over the place that are involved with this inventing the Sentinel program. Because he's trying to get funding for the Sentinel program.
You know what it is? I know what it is. It's like a James Bond situation. It's more of a title. So if you're involved, if you're the head of the Sentinel program, you inherit the name Bolivar Trask.
Is that the deal with James Bond? That James Bond is a title that when you're James,
that's 007 is inherited.
That's one theory.
I know they tried to do that in the Pierce Brosnan movies, but they never pulled it off. But they didn't want to have in one of them a thing where Sean Connery and Roger Moore and Timothy Dalton were all older James Bonds that he got in touch with. And I think that one of them wasn't into it, probably Connery.
I think it's just a popular fan theory at this point. I don't think they'll ever canonize that.
I think it would make more sense. It wouldn't apply to the Daniel Craig one, which is just its own pocket universe of like, what if James Bond was good but sad and ultimately
blonde?
Depressed. Yeah. Such a bizarre, like, I'll buy an alternate universe being a different person, different face, but they better not have a different hair color. Ghost does actually act on things. He does track down the damaged Sentinel.
His brilliant plan is
they do rescue Jubilee. They don't rescue Beast.
What was his plan? Like, I thought his plan was pretty dumb, I guess is what the word I'm looking for. He's like, I'll just go to Jubilee's house.
It's like in Avengers when Iron Man shows up and he says, I do have a plan. Attack.
Yeah.
That's kind of all he does. He just goes back and he does fight them. Cyclops basically proves that Wolverine is right.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that makes Wolverine seem extra cool because he bossed around the leader guy.
Yeah.
Regardless of some of the weirdness of that, I mean, we learned so much about these characters in this universe.
Oh yeah.
Uh, I know it, even though I kind of think of it as like, okay, this is pretty boring compared to everything else. It just does a masterfully good job for a kids show in 1992 of establishing a world, a
Yeah,
whole.
lots of good
It,
exposition without being
yeah.
too heavy-handed.
There's a lot of world
They
building, a
just
lot
integrated it
of
in everything.
Like
Well,
it's a,
TV is used a lot to communicate that, but I think it's
yeah.
okay when you've got 22 minutes to communicate a bunch of ideas to lean on that TV exposition. Normally it
TV,
does
if
bother me.
you're under the age of 20, was this thing that you'd kind of like watch TikTok on, but as like a family. It was like on the wall or on the floor.
So is it implied here that they've destroyed all of the Sentinels that they have? It seemed like they were sending every single one at them. And it seemed like they like emptied the facility and now all the Sentinels
Yeah,
have been
but
destroyed.
now they probably
And they
have
don't have
funds to
funding,
build
right?
something else, right? Because
Oh, right, yeah.
we know
I
where this is going. We know the Sentinels are going to be back and they're going to
oh
be.
go, yeah. But he
But I
loses
think this
support.
season will reveal how they get their funding and how things come together.
Yeah.
Because this whole season is one big story in a way that was really impressive to me to revisit. To realize, oh wow, I don't. There was nothing like you show me the Eek the Cat episodes where they were weaving together a narrative for you to follow things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really
Yeah.
impressive
The
for
episode
sure.
ends with Jubilee saying goodbye to her foster parents. She says she'll visit them, but as far as we know, she never does. Why would she? And she decides to join the X-Men, and she moves in, and la di da, off we go.
Because it's one story, I think I would just give it one combined rating because it really is like I don't think
Yeah.
you could really watch these episodes on their own at all. They're really one 40-minute story. And because of the immense effective world building that happens, I would give it like um I would give it a 7 foster children out of 10 because
Wow.
even though it's a little dry, it just gets a lot of effective world building done.
Mhm.
Maybe eight foster children out of 10.
Wow, that's almost a full
Nice.
X-Men team.
Yeah. It's
Great.
also a really controversial poker hand.
How about
So,
you, Mike? What would you rate it?
oh gosh. I mean, I think it's a really strong start to the show. Obviously, like I think I think the episodes are a little uneven, but I do like that it sort of ends and begins both. Like they starts with this really good animation and fight at the mall, and then it ends. They put their most animation budget, I think, into these fights at the start and the end of the two-parter. So I really like that. Um, I'd still give it like a solid like 7 or 8
It's
out
like
of
an
10.
8 for historical context, but a 7
Yeah,
for like
a
actual.
100%. Yes, exactly. Yeah, origin stories always kind of drag for me a little bit, just because like
Yeah, they're hard. It's
they're
the hardest
hard
thing
when
to
it's all
introduce a
this
bunch of
setup
stuff.
that when you've already seen it, it's not exactly entertaining. I guess not always. Anyway, some stories can be entertaining that way, but yeah, that's my thoughts on it. I
Some of it
guess.
was. I think episode 2 was a little bit more entertaining, a little bit more action in that. And again, that weird editing that like it feels like the rule is being broken for no reason, but it did really make it stick with me. Like I remember I felt differently about Morph dying than like anything else that I'd experienced watching cartoons on Saturday morning after that point, you know? Like in every Ninja Turtles episode, it was the same at the end as it had been at the beginning. And here at the end of episode 2, everything has changed already.
Rating wise, yeah, I'd say it's like a solid 7.5 or 8 foster kids. Because it was it was exciting, but did a good job telling the story, and it told the story organically, and it did the exposition thing well. It used a lot of tropes, like you said, about like showing stuff on TV and like maybe newspaper headlines and stuff, but still worked. It was solid. You got to all the characters were really well introduced too. Yeah, but I think like worst use would have to be tied by pretty much all of the like energy based people with powers. So like Gambit, throwing his cards, like sometimes they would do a ton of damage, take out like both arms and both legs of a sentinel. Other times it's like surprise, flash. And they're
Right.
like, and they just gotta like keep going. So like that's kind of weird. That one really can't be explained away. It's just like sometimes I guess he charges it for longer, kind of like cooking a grenade.
Right.
I don't know. Gambit. I like Gambit and I hate Gambit. Anyway.
Yeah.
Then
There need to be more concrete rules for Gambit for him to work.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And like the bow staff never really comes into it as much as it did in the
True.
comics.
Yeah,
But
that's true.
he was like a little thief. He's like anyway, cool guy, but yeah, power
A
sucks.
little, yeah.
Same with Cyclops. Like Cyclops' sort of maybe uncontrolled blasts were kind of inconsistent, and then of course little Jubilee, having her little hand powers. She did.
Yeah.
Sometimes she again would destroy a whole thing, and sometimes it would just be like a distraction. So whether that's her learning how to use her powers or actually controlling whether it's just a little surprise or a full-on like hole in a Sentinel's chest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. As for the best power use, it's got to be Wolverine, just getting in there. And
Yeah.
he said something like, "I'm gonna like take you down, Tin Man, and show you Oz or something." And he like
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
like cuts his head
Yeah.
off and
I
like
like that.
starts like smashing him
He
down on the ground.
also had a really good moment at the end when he says this one's for Morph and he like really like hauls
Yeah,
off on one.
that's right.
Yeah, that was a good one.
When he finishes off his head, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, look, we didn't get to see violence really like that. It felt much more violent than when like Ninja Turtles would take down foot soldiers or whatever, because he was avenging a friend who died, and like his his blades on his hands were just so instantly iconic. Like we all
Yeah.
had Freddy Krueger in our mind, but Freddy Krueger was a bad guy. He was scary. Wolverine here comes along and he's got the same like
Yeah.
hand blades, but he's just using it for the force of good.
It'll be interesting to see how they handle his like claws and powers in general going forward. Because like, will they show him actually getting hurt and healing all that often, or will like are they allowed to hurt him because he can heal himself? Is that like something they could skirt those rules with? It'll be interesting to see, I guess.
The X-Force arc is pretty interesting in this.
Okay. Interesting.
From my recollection, I haven't rewatched anything. But
yes, I'm trying not to correct you and just let it play out. It's very different from how you remember. I don't think we do have the X-Force. I think we're actually going to see X-Force in X-Men 97 season 2.
I do recall that being sort of part of the cliffhanger at the end.
We almost got an X-Force movie, and I actually
maybe I'm using the wrong term. So in my mind, X-Force is his like Canadian cadre. And it's got
that's Alpha Flight. Yes.
Alpha Flight. Damn it. Yeah. Okay. So the Alpha Flight stuff. But I thought it was when he was in X-Force, they turned him into an adamantium. And we do get to see his like adamantium skeleton scenes in this show.
Yeah. Yes. That team was just the Weapon X team. I don't think
I get so many things confused. My apologies.
And
so
also
Weapon
they
X
used this X naming convention so much that it muddles things up. It was like cool at the time, I guess, and you add the X, you get that X-Men sales boost.
Generation X.
Something else. Generation X, X Factor, that's the one that does show up in the team.
Excalibur.
Yeah, Excalibur for the British team.
What was that one? There was one like multiversal comic series where like they would jump from.
Oh, Exiles. I like Exiles a lot. I think Exiles would work really well as a Disney Plus cartoon because you're following a group of characters through the multiverse. So you have the emotional attachment to characters that can die and do have consequences attached to them, while you're also doing the multiverse fun of seeing different versions of characters. I think that would be way better than what If is now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of like that CW. What was it called? The Somethings of Tomorrow or the Champ? Like it was like a spin. Legends of Tomorrow. Yeah, that was more time travel though, wasn't it? Or was that multiple reality?
That was about time travel, and the realities got changed as it went. I think. I don't know. I couldn't really deal with it. It was just too cheesy.
Oh no, I never watched. Yeah, I was way over the CW stuff by then.
I would watch the crossover episode stuff, but I would have trouble with the Legends of Tomorrow aspects of it. Just time travel is just too hard to work with. I think that the X-Men show will do a very good job with its time travel, but I do not think that show did a good job with its time travel.
Cable.
It's messy.
What do you think, like best and worst animation moments?
Let's see. Yeah, there was. To me, I thought episode 1. I don't know if you guys would agree, was much better animation wise than episode 2. I think episode 2 was
That
like
might be
very
because episode 1 is the one that got heavily reanimated, and episode 2
maybe is episode
wasn't
2 felt very blurry and like characters were off model a lot. There was one moment that was particularly bad towards the start. There was a few things in a row when they're breaking into the compound. There's one shot where it's outside and there's like a Jeep driving across the screen, but it's not aligned with the road. Like the background element and the car driving forward were not lined up properly. And it looked like it was like driving off road or several feet off the road, I guess, depending on the way you look at it. That was kind of the most egregious error. There's also a shot where Wolverine runs at the camera. This is more bad direction than anything, but he runs at the camera and it's like directly at crotch level. So like it kind of like one of those things where you're like it's a transition where the something takes up the entire screen and then it transitions to something else. But the thing that takes up the entire screen is his crotch. I didn't care for that. I didn't want Wolverine's penis directly in my face like that. And like I said before, I think the fights at the start and the end with the Sentinels were both really well done. I thought they did some really good stuff with Rogue, where she like did some interesting stuff that was like tough for perspective. Like they had her do some like, and it's probably clever like matte paintings in the background more than anything, where she does like a perspective shifting flight animation, and the background is like painted properly to reflect that, which I thought was like well done for like a limited budget. And she does like some cool judo throws that would have been probably tough to animate as far as like having two characters interact like that. Yeah, other than that, like there's not a lot of standout animation, unfortunately. When we mentioned we were talking about the Batman and we were comparing it to the Batman animated series, and I feel like this show, I mean, hopefully I'll be proven wrong, but I don't know if it's going to have as many like standout episodes animation wise as something like Batman did. I feel like this is more even all the way through, whereas Batman would have some episodes that were really, really well animated, like the Clayface one, where this one will just be sort of
and that the big Rage Al Ghul two-parter at the end.
yeah.
And there's one Scarecrow episode. Those were all done by the Akira Animation Studio to try and get themselves out of the financial mess that finding that Little Nemo got them into. So
Yeah.
those are cool. There's some real dodgy ones. X-Men, it's like, even though it's not as great at times, it's also, yeah, like you said, consistently good until that final season when they had a lower budget and went to a different animation studio. And those episodes are fucking brutal to watch.
Oh, really? Oh, good.
Oh yeah,
Looking forward to that.
there's some bad animation that we'll see. I've tried to like spread it out a little bit because some of season 5 episodes were actually season 3 episodes. So we'll run into it in season 3.
Great.
It'll get pretty bad. And then it'll get good again. And then bad. But we'll appreciate the good stuff even more because we'll know how good we have it. Then the final episodes will be fucking terrible. I'm sorry. There's nothing I can do about that.
Yeah. I'd say like the most egregious thing that I noticed animation wise that was a little rough is just like lip syncing and lip movements. I found a lot of the times the mouth movements were just not quite bang on, and it probably tough to do. I'm sure it's tough to do. How could it not be? Yeah.
Yeah, I really noticed this when I was doing like I made some animated parody videos of Optimus Primal from
Oh
Beast
yeah.
Boys with the actual actor Gary Chalk who did the voice of the character, and people said like they could tell that we were editing stuff to different words.
Mhm.
So I took them out, and I just thought like, well, actually, like if you look at the animation, it's like it doesn't quite fit in the first place. It's just when you are watching a professional thing that you know is professional, your mind just automatically defaults to thinking, okay, this is done well and this
It's
works.
done right. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're not going to see the problems as often as you
Yeah.
would if you were watching like, your own things or things are amateur.
So that's pretty much what we've got for our first episode here,
Cool.
season
Wrap it up.
3. Season 3 of the TV show, presenting X-Men 92. Next week, we're going to be covering 2 new episodes. It's going to be Enter Magneto and Deadly Reunions, which I kind of remember Magneto's debut episode, so I'm kind of looking forward to that. I remember that being a good one. I don't remember what Deadly Reunions is about. Yeah, anything you guys want to say about next week's show, or
I'm guessing Deadly Reunions is Wolverine meeting up with Sabretooth again. Or maybe
good
Kraven.
guess.
It's kind of like a two-parter, actually. It doesn't.
Maybe the deadly reunion is Professor Xavier and Magneto.
You're both right on both of those things. All those things happen in the next couple episodes.
All those things happen. For Jim Vanderhorst and Ben Caldwell, I'm Mike McDermott, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye, bub.